Ayo, gotcha. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Ace. This is Fantasized Football. We are back once again, bringing y'all some more fantasy football content for the 2021 fantasy football season. And I'm here today to bring y'all my starts of the week and then also answer some of your start or sit questions. Hey, I'm excited to do this. Thank you all for dropping the comments on the last video, the last couple of videos with your starter sits questions on Instagram, on Twitter, whatever it was. I really do appreciate that. Make sure to follow my Instagram and my Twitter down below while you're at it. But before we get into that, I did want to give a quick shout out to all of y'all because we have surpassed yet another goal, hit yet another milestone, and that was 300 subscribers on YouTube. We wanted to do it by the end of the fantasy football season. Hell, when we started, we wanted to hit 100 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the fantasy football season. Look at us now. We're going for the gusto now, though. We're looking to hit 500 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the fantasy football season. So help me out doing that by liking the videos, leaving comments, subscribing to the channel, obviously, if you are new, and sharing this with all your friends, family, cats, dogs, teachers, whoever the fuck wants to talk, listen about the fantasy football from the boy Ace on the Fantasized Football YouTube channel that you're on right now. My brothers and my sisters. But yes, I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It really means the world to me. Me, my boy, we all appreciate it. We're putting the foods on the table so that we can eat. Thank you so very much. But like I mentioned, like I had alluded to, today we're going to be going through my starts of the week and my start sits. Well, actually, your start sits I'm going to be answering. We got a lot to talk about, so we're going to kind of power through it a little bit, going to kind of be moving a little bit quickly. I'll give you guys a brief reason as to why these are my starts of the week. I went a little more edgy with it. I didn't want to just throw you guys obvious ones. So I went with some people that maybe either struggled last week or some guys that maybe in most leagues you wouldn't be starting or you have a decision to make on. That's how I went about it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Actually, I also wanted to mention this is just kind of for fun too. I did throw a little projected stat line in for each of these players as well. Take it with a grain of salt. It was more meant to be for fun. I'm not really I'm not gonna put my stamp of approval on all of them, but it was kind of just something I decided I would do just for fun for y'all, for myself. So without further ado, let's kick it off. We got one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, and a tight end start of the week. So let's start with the quarterback, and that is going to be Ryan Tannehill of the Tennessee Titans. Now, Tannehill had a bad week one. Very disappointing for most fantasy managers, but I do expect him and the Titans as a whole to bounce back. I think the team as a whole was kind of in a funk last week. Derrick Henry couldn't get it going. Julio didn't really get it going. A.J. Brown had a decent game, but this week against Seattle, I expect them to bounce back. Seattle has a porous defense. This is going to be a shootout. I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot, so I'm in on Ryan Tannehill. I'm in on Julio Jones. I'm in on A.J. Brown. I'm in on Derrick Henry. Hopefully Henry gets it going. They can get the play action going, and Ryan Tannehill can really get rocking and rolling early on. We get a high-scoring game, lots of touchdowns, lots of good stuff, lots of good numbers for fantasy football. But my projected stat line for Ryan Tannehill is going to be 27 for 38, 313 yards, and 3 touchdowns, adding 3 rushes for 15 yards, resulting in 32 points based on 6-point passing touchdowns. So if you have Ryan Tannehill, feel confident starting him this week. Now, moving on to the running back position, we have Damien Harris of the New England Patriots, who went for over 100 yards last week, but he did have that costly fumble at the end of the game. But I expect this game against the Jets to be a beatdown. I think that the Patriots are going to beat the shit out of the Jets, and there is going to be a lot of opportunities to run the ball. The game script will call for the Patriots to be running the ball, kind of killing the clock, whatever. They're in control of the game, which is obviously really good for Damien Harris. I also expect to see more red zone opportunities against this Jets defense than they did last week against Miami. Miami obviously has a much stronger defense than the New York Jets do. So in this case, Damien Harris should see some goal line opportunities, hopefully converting one to a touchdown. And with that out of the way, my projected stat line for Damien Harris is going to be 18 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown on the ground, and 2 targets, 1 catch for 6 yards, resulting in 15 half PPR points on the nose. Now, moving on from running back to wide receiver, we have Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. Now, Sutton had a tough week one, right? Again, very disappointing, like we said, with Ryan Tannehill. But do not fret. I expect this week they are going to try to get Sutton more involved, get him going, especially with Jerry Jeudy out of the lineup. Sutton is going to be the clear-cut number one option on this team now. So with that in mind, they're going to want to kind of get him going. He was also obviously coming off a season-ending injury, his first regular season game back. So only got 3 targets, 1 catch, 14 yards. I expect a lot more volume going way of Sutton this week because they're going to want to get him in the swing of things with Jeudy out of the picture so that Teddy Bridgewater can have his top option ready to go in the meantime until Jerry Jeudy comes back. They're also playing Jacksonville this week, who just let up 37 fucking points to Houston and Tyrod Taylor. Need I say more? Start Courtland Sutton this week. As for a projected stat line, I have him for 8 targets, 6 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown, 16.2 half PPR points. If you have Sutton, start him with confidence this week against Jacksonville. And now, moving on to the last one, our tight end start of the week. That is going to be Jared Cook of the Los Angeles Chargers. Last week, 8 targets, 5 catches, 56 yards against a tough Washington D. This week, they have Dallas in what I expect to be a shootout. Now, Jared Cook saw a lot of volume. 8 targets is something we love to see at the tight end position. No, it's not Darren Waller getting fucking 19 targets, but we don't see that from the tight end position very often. 6+ targets a week for a tight end, that is just fine for me if you're looking to kind of stream the position. And this matchup with Dallas is set to be a shootout, a very high-scoring game, at least I think so. Now, we might not see as much volume for Jared Cook this week because Austin Eckler did not see a target last week against Washington, so I expect them to try to get Eckler more involved in the receiving game this week. But I think that in this game, the Chargers will see a lot more, like I mentioned with Damien Harris, red zone opportunities. And Jared Cook, throughout his career, has been a big-time red zone threat. And obviously, he does have that rapport with Justin Herbert now, as we saw in Week 1, evidenced by him getting 8 targets. So if he can get into the end zone, Jared Cook could be a sneaky start at the tight end position this week. And a projected stat line for Jared... Seymour, I made you a sandwich. My projected stat line for Jared Cook is going to be 6 targets, 4 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown, resulting in 13.2 half PPR points. Now, just to recap real quick, we got a quarterback, Ryan Tannehill of the Tennessee Titans, running back, Damien Harris of the New England Patriots, and wide receiver, Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. Last but not least, Jared Cook of the LA Chargers at tight end. But now, with that out of the way, my starts of the week, let's go ahead and answer you guys' start or sit question. So, it is now time to actually do the starts or sits. I cut the video real quick because I didn't want this to go over time and my camera to shut down. So, we're going to kind of power through these real quick. We got 9 of them to go through. Bang them out real quick. Give you guys a quick reason as to why I chose one player or the other. So, without further ado, let's get right into the first question. And this is a super flex question. Dalton, home versus Cincinnati, or Jimmy Garoppolo at Philadelphia. I'm going to go ahead and take Andy Dalton here. He's got a revenge game here against Cincinnati. It is within the range of outcomes that San Francisco does come out and get out to an early lead and go into a run-heavy game script. So I'm going to go with Dalton. Kirk Cousins lit up the Bengals last week. Let's hope for a big week for Dalton. Slap him in to your super flex spot, my friend. Now, moving on to the next one, we have a full PPR question. Nyheim Hines, home versus the Rams. James White at the Jets. Corey Davis versus the Patriots. I'm going to go ahead and pick James White here more as a floor play. If you need ceiling, you might want to go with Corey Davis, but it is very, very risky because I think the Patriots defense is going to shut the Jets down. Nyheim Hines has a very tough matchup against the Rams this week, and James White was heavily involved last week. He got 7 targets from Mac Jones, so I think he has a relatively safe floor. I think the Patriots are going to be in control of this game. We'll see a lot of runs, some checkdowns to White as well, I'm sure. So I'm going to go with James White in full PPR here. And now we have another PPR question, a tight end question. Dallas Goedert versus the 49ers at home, or Noah Fant at Jacksonville. This one's pretty easy for me, honestly. I'm going to just go with Noah Fant here. He was heavily involved last week. He got 8 targets. Like I mentioned with Sutton, The Jaguars just let up 37 points to the Houston Texans. So I think the Broncos will be able to get out to a hot start and take it to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And in the case of Dallas Goedert, he's got a tough matchup here against San Francisco. So it's pretty easy for me to lean towards Noah Fant here. I would be confidently starting Noah Fant in week 2. Could see some red zone opportunities as well, which is good. Plus, there should be some volume there. Now, moving on, we got no format for this one. We have Jamar Chase at Chicago or Julio Jones at Seattle. Now, I'm going to go with Julio Jones here. I'm going to go with old reliable. Jamar Chase did come out to a hot start. This one is a lot closer than some of these other ones have been for me. But I'm going to still go with Julio here. Like I mentioned with Tannehill, I expect the Titans to bounce back in a big way this week. This game should be a shootout. Excuse me. And if that's the case, then Julio Jones could be one of the main benefactors there. So I'm going to go with Julio Jones, but I don't think either of them are a bad option. If you can start both, maybe throw one of them in your flex, do that. But if you have to pick between the two, go with Julio Jones, in my opinion. Obviously, take all of these with a grain of salt. These are just my opinions. You make the decision at the end of the day, but I would go with Julio Jones. We got another close one here. We have Antonio Brown, home versus Atlanta, or Courtland Sutton at Jacksonville. Got to go with the start of the week, Courtland Sutton here, right? Although I do think this is a lot closer. But the reason I'm going with Courtland Sutton is all the reasons I talked about before, why he's my start of the week. I think he's going to get a lot of volume. They're going to try to get him going this week. But also, I do think it's within the range of outcomes that the Buccaneers come out and get out to a big early lead on the Falcons. And if that's the case, then the wide receivers, Rob Gronkowski, may get phased out of the game plan a little bit as they will be running the ball more frequently. So I think there is just a higher ceiling this week. Well, I shouldn't say a higher ceiling, but I just like Courtland Sutton more because I think they're going to try to get him going early on, and the Jaguars defense obviously stinks. So we're going to go with Courtland Sutton here in all formats. The next question was start sit Will Fuller. I'm pretty sure he's out for the week now, so I don't even really have to answer this, but just food for thought. I would have said if you have another serviceable option, sit Will Fuller. New team, new offense, hasn't played for a little while, so I would sit Will Fuller. Now, obviously, if he's going to be out for the week, we are not going to be playing Will Fuller. Half PPR. Hollywood Brown, home versus Kansas City, or Marvin Jones, home versus Denver. I'm going to go with Hollywood, assuming he's healthy, because apparently he had an ankle issue in practice, but he was good last week. He had 6 targets, caught all 6 balls, right? Playing Kansas City should be a high-scoring game, a lot of scoring opportunities, a lot of volume in this game for the Ravens and the Chiefs alike. So I would go with Hollywood Brown. Marvin Jones has a tougher matchup as well, but if anything comes up with Hollywood Brown, with his ankle being a more of an issue, then I would go ahead and pivot to Marvin Jones. But as of right now, I am going with Hollywood Brown if he is suiting up and if he is good and healthy, ready to go. Now, moving on, we have Deonte Johnson home versus Las Vegas, or Nelson Aguilar at the Jets. No format here, but in all formats, I'm going with Deonte Johnson. He saw 10 targets last week. Big numbers there. We love to see it. We love the volume for Deonte Johnson. The Raiders were surprisingly good beating the Ravens last week, so this could be a competitive game where the Steelers have to throw the ball quite frequently, and we know Big Ben loves to target Deonte Johnson. Nelson Aguilar at the Jets, like I mentioned earlier, with both Damien Harris and, what else did we talk about? Corey Davis and James White. I think it's within the range of outcomes that the Patriots just dominate this game early on, and if that's the case and they're in a run-heavy game script, then obviously that's not going to be great for any of the receiving options, so I am going to go with Deonte Johnson here in all formats. Now, the last one is to rank these 3 quarterbacks, and I'm just going to spit it out in the order in which I would rank them. I'm assuming this is for a 2 QB league, but the question was Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, Jameis Winston. It's in that order for me. Aaron Rodgers is going to come out with a vengeance this week. Justin Herbert has the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's going to be a shootout. I think Rodgers is going to come out and just he's got something to prove. He's got a little chip on his shoulder after a terrible week 1. And Justin Herbert, like I just mentioned, is in a shootout. I do like Jameis a lot this week, but I just prefer Aaron Rodgers or Justin Herbert over him. But that's it. That's all there is. I am done. There is my starts of the week and our start-sit questions from you guys that have all been answered. Now, I hope that helps. Obviously, take it with a grain of salt. Make the decision for yourself, and make sure that in the future, you guys are dropping your start-sit questions, anything you want to hear in the comments or on my socials. Links will be down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's go for the gusto. Try to hit 500 subscribers by the end of the fantasy football season. Follow my socials down below. Thank you again for 300 subscribers. I appreciate you guys so very much. But that's it. That's all there is. Me, my boy, we are out for today, and we will catch y'all next time. And as always, thank you, love you, peace.